Hi guys, this is Corey with Sellercore Free Auction Template Editor. Today I want to show you step by step on how to use our CSS editor. There's a lot of advanced options in there. Some are pretty straightforward, but I want to go over all of them so you have an idea of how to use them, what you can expect from them, and maybe get an idea of different ways and things you can do with them. So let's get started. So I have a new document here. It just says Sellercore CSS is awesome. Very simple text inside a very simple div. So I'm going to double click on it, hit edit CSS style, and open our CSS editor. The first thing you'll see across the top is a bunch of tabs for different options, different things we can edit. Down here is a preview, and then where it says no CSS applied, this will tell us our CSS that's currently being applied. It's a good way to learn the CSS to see exactly what's going on without having to go through all the different options and looking at it. So up here, text. Font size, very straightforward, it is what it is. Generally, font size on the screens are 14 pixels. So if I make this 25 pixels, it's going to be 25 pixels tall. I can change from pixels to points. I typically stick with pixels because pixels are directly relation to the screen size. So I know it's a better way and easier of making sure things look right. If I make a box that's 30 pixel tall and I put a 25 pixel text inside of it, I know that 25 pixel text is going to fit inside the 30 pixel box. Pretty straightforward. Points, you can do it the same way, points and points, but most things are done in pixels. So moving on, font color, exactly what you think it is. By default, it's black, so there's nothing in here. It gives our example saying black. Of course, I can click this and open our color palette. You'll see this all over the software and other places on Sellercore. Our default colors here, I can click through here, pick different colors. I can go through here, pick more different shades, click through. Of course, I can make it lighter and darker. I can choose between saturation and hue mode. I can slide my sliders back and forth to dial in exact color. And then over here, these are colors I've chosen since I've opened this palette. So if I click on that again, it'll take me back to that color. This allows me also to test other colors up against it, give me an idea what the two colors are going to look like next to each other. So I'll just go with a blue, and down here, if I know my hexadecimal code, I can enter it in there, of course, obvious. So moving on, font family. This is your font style. Set the default, whatever the browser is set to, but I can also set it to a few default things, so we'll set it to Arial. You can go much deeper with font styles using Google Fonts. I've put out a video about that, and I'll touch on it again in a later video for this editor. Font weight, this is how you bold items, bold our text down there. Normal would be normal text. The difference between normal and default for a lot of these is default's going to take whatever the outside elements tell it to do. So if I were to use the bold up here outside of this, it's going to be bold. But if I come in here and tell it to be normal, it's going to be normal no matter what the outside elements tell me. So that's the difference between a lot of these defaults or nones and normals. So it's good to know. These numbers in here, depending on your browser, you'll see them get thicker. I typically just stick with bold because I know what I'm getting. So font style, this is how you do italics. Gives you the option of oblique. Depending on browser, it might come through that way. It's coded in there, so the editor will pick up on it and it won't get rid of your italic lettering, even though it might say oblique. Decoration, this is how you do your underline, your line through, your line over. So line through, line over, underline. Once again, you have the options for none or default. Default will pick up whatever's outside of it. None will be no line throughs at all. Letter spacing, pretty much what you think it is. If I make this 5 or even something greater like 15, it puts 15 pixels between each of our letters. It's a good way to space things out, add a little emphasis on headers and stuff like that. I like it. I like using it. Most time I just stick with one just to give it a little bit more. Word spacing, same thing as letter spacing, except we're spacing out of words. So if I put that 25 pixels are between our letters, of course if I go to points, you see that it's not exactly the same. So, of course you could hit spacebar a bunch of times, but this is using CSS to do it, so you don't have to mess with your code and make sure it's all perfect. CSS will make sure it's perfect for you. So get rid of that. Line height. Line height's kind of straightforward, but there's a lot of advanced things you can do with it. So if I were to set this to 50 pixels, my font size 25, literally it's 50 pixels from the top to the middle somewhere, and then another 50 pixels from here down to the bottom. And then our 25 pixels take up the space in between. So if I were to set this at 50, it's just going to give us our bottom gaps where, like, if I had a Y or something, it would probably be touching this A. So something else you can do with that, if I were to make it smaller than 25, like we'll say 15, you can see how it starts to encroach upon that text, or I could literally go in and put it on top of the text. If I were to do 10, you know, it starts to overlap it, or 0 would literally keep everything on the same line. You know, everything has advantage, disadvantage, depending on what you're trying to get out of it. So the advanced part of line height is if I had a box that is 100 pixels tall and I set this to 100 pixels, this is always going to put that text down the middle of that box. So if I wanted the box to be vertically, or the text to be vertically aligned in the box, I would set my line height to the same width as my size of my div or my outer box, and it would vertically align it. And I will show you that when I get to size, but just wanted to touch on that real quick as well. So go back, text indent. Once again, this is like spacing or tabbing in your first sentence of each paragraph. I can use CSS to do it for me, 25 pixels. All my paragraphs will start with 25 pixels. You know, this way I know it all looks the same across my entire page or my entire website. It's an easy way of doing that. So Whitespace and word wrap. It's a little bit confusing. Technically, the coding for that says Whitespace. Coding for that is word wrap. That's why I left it that way. Whitespace is how you wrap or don't wrap text in a box. So if you don't want your text to wrap, you say no wrap. If you want it to wrap normally, you just, you know, no whitespace applied. Word wrap, on the other hand, is if you have a long hyphenated word that goes beyond the box, it'll wrap it on its own. I can tell it to break the word or not break the word. So it'll go beyond the box and outside of it. So that's the difference between word wrap and whitespace. Whitespace wraps all the words. Word wrap will tell it to break that word or not if it's longer than the space it's allowed. You won't come across situations too often in that unless maybe you have a really large header or something that's the text is bigger than the box it's in. So transform, it capitalizes lowercase, uppercase. Capitalize literally will capitalize every word inside the box. So you can see my I and is lowercase. It'll capitalize it for me. Go back to none, it's back to lowercase. I can make my whole sentence lowercase or my whole sentence uppercase. So this is a capitalized uppercase. This is a good thing to use, that once again you don't have to worry about typing it out, that you just know it's all capitalized. So for headers and stuff like that, you know, this makes things faster if you just set it to capitalize. No matter what you type will be capitalized. So put it back to none. Font variant, this takes your text and basically almost changes your font style. It's all uppercase, but the first letter is larger than the rest of the word. It's more of an effect. I don't use it very often, but it's there if you want it. And once again, direction, I don't use it very often, but it's there if you want it. Left to right is normal, but you can also set it to right to left. Alright guys, this is the text tab. Pretty straightforward stuff here, but I wanted to touch on it. The rest of the stuff I'm sure will be much more detailed and advanced, so check out those videos. So set this forward. So my name is Corey with Sellercore.com, the free auction template editor. Please leave any questions or comments below. Thank you.